Welcome to Gone Fishing. Today we're at Duncairn Reservoir just south of Swift Current. Now this is my first time here, but Bob's promised me some great action on the perch and walleye.
Well, I fish a lot here in the winter time, and I know we caught a lot of perch over 2 pounds, some nice walleye and some nice northern pike. Now if you're looking for Duncairn Reservoir on your map, it's about 25 miles southwest of Swift Current, and it's probably marked on most maps as Reid Lake. Come and join us. You can see it's a windy day out here, so come and join us and we'll try and show you some techniques that we use in the wind.
What we're doing here, it's kind of a unique presentation. A lot of people never think of casting jigs. We've got the wind blowing into an inside turn on a point, and the fish are just stacked in here, so we're casting our jigs up into 3 or 4 feet of water and just bringing them very slowly back to the boat. And once we get them underneath the boat, we're just starting to vertical jig then.
Now they're biting really tender, so we've, no, I missed one too. Got to be, there, he cleaned me off. I'm using part of a night crawler, and TJ's using a leech. We've sharpened up our hooks real good. I've turned mine a little bit to offset it. We've tried a variety of different colors, and it seems like a Northland's Fireball blue and glow is the only thing that they're biting on at all. We've tried numerous different brands and colors of jigs, and this seems to really be attracting them. But like TJ said, we're just casting out here into a little bit of a dip, bringing it back up into 4 or 5 feet of water right below the boat, and jig it a few times, and pow. So anyways, they're sure picking the bait off.
Let's get some.
Okay, just one after the other. They're all about the same size.
It's a pretty natural spot to fish on a windy day, and it's important you do pay attention to the wind. Now the wind's really just piling into this inside turn, and it really makes all the plankton and the bait fish collect in here, and that's what brings the larger predator fish in. So it's a good point to watch when you're out in a reservoir. That's a nice one.
They sure are chunky fish. They, you know, we're getting a few that are a little bigger than this, but they're all really chunky.
You bet. Even if you're fishing from shore, kind of keep an idea where that wind's been for the last few days. Now, if you know the wind's been blowing out of the south for the last 2 days, concentrate your efforts at the north end of the lake. The water will be warmer up there, there'll be a lot more feed. So that's where the fish are going to go. And look for areas that are going to concentrate them. Now this little area here, the wind blows in and the water's got nowhere to get out, so everything just concentrates right in here.
Also, TJ, when we first got here, the way the wind was coming in here, it kind of created a little bit of an eddy in here. So there was a bit of slack water, and all that bait fish and whatever else that's in here just stays in this area. And the walleye can come up and just gorge themselves on it.
It's unbelievable on the sonar in here. You can't hardly use it. There is so much feed in the water. It's just black from top to bottom.
Now, I'm not sure what the main forage is in here. I know in the winter when we're ice fishing, there's lots of freshwater shrimp, so I would guess that's probably what the main forage is. We've drilled holes in the ice and pulled the auger out, and it's just black, comes out of there just black with freshwater shrimp. That must be what's showing up on our sonar screen too, because like you said, it just blocks it out from top to bottom.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And this would be such an easy spot for someone to fish from shore. We're anchored here probably not 10 feet from shore. Saskatchewan has got so many waters like this too. I just, cannot believe the quality of the fishing and how underutilized some of it is. And there's opportunities for shorebound anglers, boating anglers, just everyone could get out and enjoy this.
Well, like you said, this is a pretty big reservoir, and we're the only boat out here. There's another one. And obviously, there's lots of fish. He's about the same size as that last one.
Well, he ate it too, didn't he?
He went after it, yeah.
It's still on a half a crawler?
Yeah, just a small piece of a night crawler.
They're really turned on to this blue and glow color. You'll find days where there will be only one color will work, and other times any color in your box. So it's really important to experiment until you do find something. Now, when Bob and I first got here, we had 2 different colors of jigs on, which is important to keep trying things until obviously one becomes better than the others. And it didn't take long to figure out that it was the blue and glow that was doing the trick. Another one?
Right below the boat. I'm getting almost every hit right below the boat. That one's a little bigger. He's putting up a fight. I'm gonna watch it here. I got an anchor rope right beside me.
Underneath me to the side of the boat?
I think I'll go to this side. That's a little bigger fish than what we've been getting.
It's just a great place to come out if you want to pick up a meal for the family, bring the kids out, enjoy this.
Now, there's nothing wrong with a walleye like that. You notice if you hold them underneath on the belly like that, quite often they won't move around on you at all, so you can get the hook out, get them back in the water without damaging them at all. Trade your sides again.
I don't know, I might want to keep this side.
I'll trade your sides again.
Just a beautiful little reservoir, I mean.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of fish. I ice fish here a lot in the winter, and huge perch here.
And there's nobody out here.
Not a soul. We're the only boat out here today. And yeah, the perch, there's lots of perch in the 2-pound plus class here. I'd like to get into some of those today too. Anyway, these fish don't seem to, they aren't hitting when we're casting out our jigs until we retrieve it right back to the boat. They must be following them up, because we're right below the boat here is only in maybe 5 or 6 feet of water.
This is unreal too. People think walleye is such a deep water fish. I mean, it's got to be, well, it's a warm day out anyways. I'm not sure what temperature is, but it's warm. And these fish are right up shallow. There's obviously something in here they're feeding on, and they're just going to town. And we're just crawling these jigs back ever so slowly. And then once we get below the boat, got him.
It's every cast. Well, that one hit a little further out. I've had a couple do that.
That looks vaguely like a sucker.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one, TJ. Beauty. Yeah.
I don't know that we were up doing a seminar the other day at Sask Landing, and the ladies there had cooked up some of these suckers, and they were good.
They were really good. Now this reservoir has some huge northern pike in it, some huge perch, and some really nice 8 to 10 pound walleye as well. And obviously it has suckers.
Oh, these big ones too.
Well, you better take that one home and put it on the wall, TJ.
I'll tell you, there's no bad fish in my eyes.
Well, they put up a good fight. There's nothing wrong with that.
You bet.
I know when sometimes when we're fishing tournaments and you hook onto one of those, it gets pretty exciting for a while. You think you've got the 10-pound walleye that you've been looking for all week.
I'll tell you, they look a lot like a walleye in the water for a while too.
Until you get a glimpse of those lips coming up at you. There's another one.
All right.
Oh, another nice walleye.
Yeah. This is great. We hardly go a cast without a bite. It's unbelievable.
It's slowing down a little bit, but we've caught a lot of fish in here too.
It's kind of one of those days where the main part of the lake's really windy, but we've got into this sheltered coulee here and found an area where the wind's working for us, and it's great. A lot of people just don't ever cast jigs, and I don't know why. It's a really effective presentation. People think you just have to sit and use them vertically under the boat, and that isn't true.
Well, it's pretty hard like if we were out in the main lake today, it'd be pretty hard to vertical jig in this wind, especially with a light jig. You got another one?
You bet.
Well, you try and hold the boat in one position and vertical jig out in the wind, and it makes it pretty tough.
Jig is probably the most versatile lure that you're ever going to use. They can be cast, they can be trolled, they can be used vertically. And I don't think there isn't a type of fish that they won't catch at one time or another. If I was limited to one lure, I think I'd pick a jig.
For sure. Yeah, you can fish them with live bait or with a plastic rubber trailer tail on them.
I think
just
that's
about anything.
Yeah, it's one thing a lot of people don't realize is you can just use a plain jig head with either a leech or a night crawler on it. You don't have to have a plastic body. At times it'll add to the jig's effectiveness, but at times it's just better to have straight live bait.
Right underneath the boat. This is a bigger fish, TJ. Maybe it's another one of those suckers. Oh, he's hooked. He's hooked in the side, that's why he felt bigger.
Duncairn Reservoir, or Reid Lake as it is often called, is located about 30 minutes southwest of Swift Current, Saskatchewan. Typical of southern prairie reservoirs, Duncairn's wind-swept waters are warm and fertile. Fish are abundant and grow quickly in this rich environment. Duncairn is home to some of the funnest perch and walleye angling in the area. This reservoir is a structure fisherman's dream with countless flats, drop-offs, and points. Numerous bays and long coulees provide refuge from the persistent west wind. There's always a spot where the fish are biting. Ironically, the waters of Duncairn receive limited angling pressure. Fishermen will rarely have to share their favorite hole with another boat. It remains one of Saskatchewan's best-kept secrets. Stay tuned for more hot walleye action. Do you have any questions or comments on Gone Fishin'? If you do, we'd love to hear from you. Send your comments to Gone Fishin', care of Box 421, Cabri, Saskatchewan, SONOJO, or fax Gone Fishin' at 306-587-2603.
The one thing that most people don't know is that walleye don't actually bite a bait. They inhale water and inhale the bait with it. So what happens if you're using too heavy of a line is that line has a lot of resistance going through the water and it's not as easy to inhale the bait. That's why it's also important to use the lightest jig head possible. So keep with the lightest line you can and the lightest jig head to still maintain good feel and good contact. Now we're using 6-pound test line here, and this is this Berkeley Ultra Thin. It's got the same diameter as 4-pound test line, but a breaking strength of 6-pound test. So it's excellent for a situation like this. Still gives you good feel, and if we do happen to hook into a bigger fish, we've still got lots of strength. And plus, it's a lot more fun on this lighter tackle, I think. Where these fish aren't that big, they're nice eating-sized fish. And
I missed them. You got my crawler.
You got my leech.
It's time now for Pokey's Pro Tips.
When we came to this lake today, we weren't sure what techniques we were going to use. We thought we might be able to get into some big perch, but we ended up finding a bunch of walleye instead. Now, we started out using a variety of different colored and styles of jigs, and what we found out worked best was a fireball jig in the blue and glow color. We tried numerous other colors, and it just seemed like the glow and blue was the color that worked. Now, a fireball jig's a little bit unique to a lot of other jigs. Most jigs, the point of the hook is in line with the eye that you tie your line to. Now, a fireball jig, the hook is a little bit higher and it's a short shank hook. It's kind of designed for walleye fishing. Also, it has another eye on the bottom of the jig to hook a stinger hook to, and we'll show you a little bit about that later. But we tried a variety of things. We caught a lot of fish on leeches, a lot of fish on night crawlers. We're going to show you how to hook those up too.
Now, like Bob said, this fireball is fairly unique. One other thing about it is the head isn't round, so it slips through rocks and weeds quite a lot easier than a round head jig would. So we were fishing on some weed edges today, and there was also some rocks, so it was quite useful in that situation as well.
Now this is one of the stinger hooks that Northlands makes to go with their fireball jigs. It's a little treble hook, and it's got a clip on it that hooks to the bottom eye on this jig. Now if we were in a tournament situation where every fish counted, we'd have probably used a stinger hook today. But we're just out having some fun, and we released most of the fish that we caught, so we didn't bother with this. One of the things we used was a night crawler. Now there's several ways to hook a night crawler on a jig. You could just hook it through the center, and you actually have two tails trailing. These fish were biting very short today and very light, so we just used a half a crawler. And how I was using the crawler most of the time, and how I hooked this up is I just ran the point of the hook through the head of the crawler and down like that. Now when the fish bit on this, there was a lot of just tap, 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 so we had to give it a few seconds, and we had a lot of misses. But there were so many fish out here, we didn't have any trouble catching all the fish we wanted. TJ was using a leech, and he's going to show you how to hook that up.
So basically with the leech, there's a sucker end and a pointed end on the leech, and what we were doing is just hooking it straight through the sucker. And just once through the sucker, like that. And as we talked a little bit out there, we were actually casting our jigs today quite a bit. And this is a very durable way to hook the leeches. They won't fly off on you, and they'll stay on quite a while. Now one other thing you can do, if you're having trouble with your leeches falling off, is you can just double hook them just through the back. And you lose a little bit of action, but they will stay on better than if you just through the sucker. But for the most part, you can get away with hooking them through the sucker. That works best. And as Bob was saying today, the fish are biting extremely light. And when we talk about biting, they're actually inhaling the bait. And they weren't inhaling much water volume when they were inhaling. So sometimes what we had to do is, rather than when we felt that first tap, we had to let them take it for a bit, which is a little bit of a unique situation with jigs. 90% of the time when you're fishing with jigs, you feel that tap, you set it instantly. But we missed a lot of fish doing that. When we started letting them take it a bit, it seemed to work better.
Now, there was one other thing that we do when we're fishing with jigs and the fish are biting as light as that, is keep your finger on the line. We cast the jig out, work it back a little bit, and I keep my finger on the line just underneath the rod here, and I can pick up, or I can feel any pickup at all with this. The vibration just comes through the line, and it gives me that much more advantage and chance to set the hook before the fish feels the jig in his mouth. So those are just a few of the techniques we used today, and we had some great success, and I'd recommend anybody that wants to have a lot of fun and catch a lot of fish, Duncairn Reservoir is a place to be. And there's another one.
All right.
Just trying something different. The action seems to have slowed down quite a bit here. I think we've worked this area pretty good. Casting out further and just pointing my rod right at the jig and just hopping it up 2 or 3 times and then letting it pause. Give another crank or 2 in the handle, pop it up, and let it pause. I had 2 strikes in a row there.
Well, I'm willing to try that.
Now, there's nothing here to hold these fish, like there's no rocks and there's no weeds. All it is, the only reason these fish are in here is just a sand bottom, and it's a nice slow taper down into a fairly deep spot. And like we mentioned earlier, the wind blowing the waves in here has moved all this food in here, and the fish are just coming out of the deeper water up onto the shallows to feed. So you don't have to find rocks or weeds or any real structure. This is just a gentle tapering slope and a sand bottom.
And it is important to fish where the fish are feeding. You don't want to fish where they're resting, because you won't catch them. I know a lot of times out in deeper water, you'll mark a lot of fish and you just can't catch them no matter what you do. But if you move up shallower, quite often that's exactly what those fish will do as well, is move up shallower to feed. So you want to fish where the fish are feeding.
Well, other than the fact that the wind's been blowing in here, I think the other most important part is that there is some deep water close by, and the fish can move up into the shallows and back into the deep.
Yeah, it doesn't take them long. They scoot 100 yards out and they're back in some deep water sanctuary, and they're quite comfortable coming up into shallow water to feed when they do have an escape route that quick.
If the water was just like glass here, probably these walleye wouldn't be up in as shallow water as they are. But with the wave action, the light doesn't seem to penetrate into the shallow water as much.
Well, that's true. Now, a lot of people think that walleye have quite sensitive eyes to light, and that isn't necessarily true. What they do have the advantage is they're an incredible low light feeder, and with the light being diffused by the wave action, it's actually darker under there than it would be on a calm day. So the bait fish don't have the same capability with their eyes, so they become a little bit disoriented and much easier for the walleye to catch.
Nice hook set.
Yeah, much easier to catch than I'm catching them. So that's why they do move up into these shallow areas, and they're definitely not that sensitive to light. It's just they have the advantage over their prey, and anytime they have an advantage over their prey, they're definitely going to take it.
Oh! Must have been a pike. I lost everything.
Well, I just lost my leech, so.
So I just broke my jig off on a fish, and I assumed it was a northern pike. That was one? Another one? But maybe it wasn't. You know, I probably caught 30 or 40 fish on this jig and haven't stopped and retied my line. And even though a walleye won't bite your line off, it is quite possible that raking through its mouth, it scarred up that line a little bit. Like you said, we are only using 6-pound test. And it's a good idea after you catch the fish to check that line and make sure that there is no nicks or scratches in it, because it doesn't take much of a pull after that to break a scarred up line.
This feels like a decent fish pump.
Good bite anyway.
It sure is. This light line and this lighter tackle is great. Sure, there's a lot of fish in this lake. I've never seen anything like it. Everywhere we've stopped, there's been fish.
Well, we're using a little bit different technique now, too. The wind's picked up, and instead of anchoring, we're just kind of working the electric motor into the wind and drifting back and trying to stay quite vertical with our jigs. And just using the electric motor to fight the wind. And we're going all the way down this shoreline, and every time we come near a point, we seem to be catching a lot of fish. So that's just another way of controlling your boat in the wind.
This lake is unbelievably productive. Every piece of structure, every point, every flat we've stopped on, we've caught something. I just can't believe it. I wish I'd have fished here sooner. This has been a great experience for me. We've kept a few for a meal tonight. And we don't need any more, so we're going to kick this one back, and there he goes. It's always nice to take home a couple fish for supper. They're really nice when they're fresh out of the lake like this. Well, this has been just fabulous. The time's kind of coming to an end here. And we're going to be heading in. I just can't believe this. We're 25 miles from a major city. We must have caught, I don't know how many fish today, Bob, 60, 70 walleye?
At least, in a matter of a few hours. Lots of walleye like this.
This is
nice and chunky.
Some of the best fishing I've ever had. Thanks for joining us on Gone Fishing.